Welcome to the Ignite Your Life podcast. Here we interview successful people who are living a life filled with adventure, excitement and fun. Learn where they've been, explore where they are going, see what gets them out of bed in the morning, find out what drives them. We will go through their lowest points and we will look at the opportunities and possibilities that are now presenting to them. Come on a journey of ignition. I'm your host, Leanne Blaney. For more information, go to ignitepodcast.com. Let's ignite. Marney Perna is an author, women's health educator and natural therapist whose specialty is stress management. She combines her many years as a natural therapist with her own life experiences to empower her clients to empty their stress buckets. A traumatic experience in her life drew her to kinesiology and often jokes with her family about a one-day workshop turning into a monster that now takes up most of her time. Hi Marney, welcome to the Ignite Your Life podcast.
Thank you, Leanne.
I'm really excited to share your story, so shall we get started?
Absolutely.
Excellent. All right. Do you want to tell us a bit about where you are now? What's actually happening for you right now?
Okay, well, at this present, or not this present second, but this year is my 60th year. So I'm facing a few age, not challenges, but age identifications, if that makes any sense to you. So I realised that 30 years ago, I saw my mum turn 60 and never thought that I'd be in that position, or you didn't worry about it back then. So to me, it's a bit of a journey investigation at the moment. But apart from that, I'm practicing as a kinesiologist, natural therapist, and having fun being an author as well.
Oh, nice. So where have you been to get to this point? What's your actual story?
My story is I was very fortunate to be a stay-at-home mum. So I spent my children's school years being at home with them. And then just as I had three children, and just when they got to high school, a health challenge in the family had me searching for different answers apart from mainstream. So I found kinesiology and natural therapies, and at 46 I decided to invent myself as a natural therapist. So middle of menopause, I decided to go to college for the first time. So wouldn't advise that for many people because you haven't got a brain. Stop it going one side and come straight out the other. But in saying that, it gave me something else to look forward to in life. So I think I'm very lucky. I'm a bit grounded. So as children move through their different stages, I can never remember lamenting wanting to go back to a previous stage. I was always happy to move on to the next one. So this was a great transition for me, and it ended up being personally very helpful because our family went through a huge financial crisis about the third year that I was in studying to do kinesiology. So a lot of the aspects I learned in natural therapies actually enabled me to cope with the financial calamity and the ensuing court cases and everything else that went on. So that's kind of how I've got to where I've got to, and I've been in business now for myself for 12 years and really enjoying life.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So you're talking there a couple of points where you did make changes, and you said one of them was your children going to high school. Were there other tipping points for change?
Not that you notice. Like you don't always notice that you're changing, but you adapt. So for me, I think a lot of it's adaptation as opposed to just totally changing. I think as we go through life, we gain knowledge and experience, and that enables us to cope with something else that we might meet further down the track. So for me, it's not always about a tipping point. It's about an acknowledgement or a confirmation that I have the tools and knowledge to cope with whatever I'm going through.
Yeah, it's so important, isn't it, to get those tools, to help you with change and to be able to be resilient and to adapt, isn't it?
To help yourself cope with the stress of change. And it's not change that always wrecks everyone, it's the mindset.
Yes.
So natural therapies and kinesiology helps people cope with stress. So I'm known as a stress buster. So I help people to identify the stress. What can we do about it? Where am I holding it? What can I do? How can I move forward? And as you say, be resilient.
Yeah.
So where does the resilience come from? And generally it comes from within, but we're not always aware of it. So there's times where we need assistance to show ourselves often that we have the tools within us to help us move through whatever transition's happening.
Definitely. So what about when you do make changes? Have you had like lightning bolt moments to make the changes, or for you has it been just like slow rumbles and thinking, now it's time to change?
I haven't had well, I suppose doing natural therapies was not just a rumble, it was a slap in the face with a wet fish, because I had to adapt to, I came out of a quite normal little square box. So if anyone was sick in my family, like the children or myself or anything, I went to a doctor. He either fixed me or he didn't. And that was just life. And suddenly I'm dealing with, so I'd never played in the metaphysical field. So my biggest change in life was adapting to the concepts of, chakras and auras and meridians and what I considered unusual methods or things, because they're not something I'd ever heard of usually. I'd be sitting in class sometimes thinking, I wonder what they're talking about. So that's been my biggest change, is adapting from mainstream to off-centre, or what I call off-centre now.
Yeah. And it's funny, isn't it? Like once you start opening your mind to that, you hear about so many different things that are out there.
I know. It's like Pandora's box. Oh, my God. I remember when I went to college, I as a mature age student, I didn't find study easy. I didn't really like school. I hated school. So I was someone that left school as early as I could to get a job. And luckily back, 45 years ago, you could get a job. You didn't need to have your qualifications, so you could get really interesting work. So when I went to college, I had to really work hard to pass the subjects. And considering I was doing things like anatomy and physiology and musculoskeletal and all that kind of stuff, it was a foreign language. So you'd be sitting there shell-shocked because A, you didn't understand what they were talking about, B, it didn't make any sense, and you couldn't spell half the things either. So you really had to adapt very quickly to different concepts. So, and keeps you on your toes. And I often tell my husband that a one weekend workshop, which was a taste tester of kinesiology, turned into a monster because it consumes you. There's always something else you can learn, or something that's really interesting, or there's always something.
Yeah, it gets a bit of addiction, doesn't it, like learning?
Absolutely. You have to put a line in the sand and say, you know what, it's enough.
Yeah.
And I think that would be one of my realizations in life, actually, as a therapist. You feel when you're first starting that you never know enough to help people. So you think, I'll start helping people when I know a bit more, when I know this, when I know that. But then when you're actually working with your clients, you actually realise that it's the basics that they need help with, not always the complicated stuff. So I brought myself very back to basics, and that's when I first became a solo author, was writing a book about stress management and how can people understand what stress was doing to them, and how they can do something about it. And there was no books around, so that kind of created my authoring journey. And then when Stacey approached me to be one of the 1,000 Ripple Effects authors, I thought, do I know enough to help someone else? Like, how do I do that? How do you put yourself back to there without knowing that you needed to be back there? So it took me months to come up with my story, because I thought, I don't think it's what I need to do. So, or who would get interest out of what I'm saying? Yeah, I think is the doubt.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a beautiful project, isn't it, though? And you're right.
Absolutely,
you go back to basics, because even like as a coach myself, you think, no, I need to know more. But going back to the basics, because a lot of the people you're talking to and helping, they don't know what you know.
No, so but you don't know that.
No.
I think one of my biggest realizations was I wanted to help everyone in the world. And it's quite a shock when you realize people don't want help.
Yes. Or
aren't ready for it. And no, look, a lot of people don't want it. They're fighting the whole time, and you go, I don't need to do this.
Yeah.
So I think that's your biggest realization as an adult, is knowing that you have the authority to say, you know what, I don't want to work with that person. It's really liberating.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so true. What about challenges? Now you've been going along with your business and that for quite some time. Have you had challenges along the way that made you feel like throwing in the towel?
Absolutely, yes. Not regularly, but enough times to know, oh, goodness. So I think you have to... So my biggest challenge in business initially was my biggest projector as well. So I was never wanting to, and still don't want to, be a full-time worker. So I learnt kinesiology and natural therapies to be able to help my family, and B, my home retired, if we did travel, which wasn't on the cards, but just in case we did, if someone had a sore shoulder or a headache or something, I could help them along the way. So it was never meant to take over putting food on the table. All right. It was serious in what I was doing, but it didn't have to supply the income to support a family. I was also a full-time carer for my parents, so it enabled me to help them. It enabled me to be available to help them as well. And then in 2008, we came home from a short family holiday to find out all of our money had gone down the tubes in a big financial disaster. So suddenly my little, takeaway business had to put income back into the family. So that was one of the biggest catalysts of change for me, as well as one of our biggest shocks. But it was in that shock that I started to use personally the tools and techniques that I gave to clients.
So what about, putting one foot in front of the other? And sometimes, obviously, it's been necessity. You've had to keep doing that. But do you have like a bigger vision as well?
Absolutely. You all have a dream. I call it crystal and champagne mindset. I believe everyone that goes into business for themselves especially has this crystal and champagne mindset. It's just you get into it and suddenly the crystal gets a bit dusty and your mindset just goes nuts, because it tells you, if it's not successfully financially initially, you start being a jack of all trades within your business. So you have to learn to find people that are aligned to your mindset or to what you're doing and your vision, and work with them so that you can all help each other. So I think that's my biggest thing, is to find a mentor or someone that I look up to that has knowledge or the expertise to assist me in getting to my next step. I'm a passionate believer in vision board and goal setting.
Yeah, they're powerful tools, aren't they?
Yeah.
What about the possibilities that have opened up to you since you've been doing your own business?
Well, they're opportunities that I would never have had being a mum, because I wouldn't have had to work in that frame sort of thing. I remember when I first got my qualifications, I still didn't, like, natural therapists are not always, they're not always on a high level when you compare them to big business owners, right? So you feel a little bit less than. So you have to learn to lift your mindset and say, look, it is a rigid edge business. It's a full-on business and a value member of the community. But you have to learn that. So I sort of went along to networking events. And I think that's where I first met Stacey, actually, was at a networking event where she was there as well. And you talk to people and you gain common interests and common grounds. But support yourself with mentors and people who are lifting for the stars as well. If you support yourself with people, or if you surround yourself with people that don't want to get ahead or complain all the time or whatever, you'll get drawn into their energy. So it's very much about surrounding yourself with people that also have goals and visions for change or betterment of some degree.
Have you had like an ignition point where things have really started taking off? Like you mentioned, you had a book. Is that when things started taking off, or have you had multiple?
I think to me, it's been a gradual lift. I've always felt like, as a natural therapist, I've been on this escalator. And a lot of the people that taught us, so the trainers, have been doing this for 30 plus years. So they've been fighting for 30 plus years to gain credibility and recognition. I believe it's coming the full circle, and it's a lot more credible now. And 10 years ago, even if you said to someone you're a kinesiologist, they'd go cross-eyed because they had never heard of it, Whereas now it's more common, and most people go, oh, yeah, I've seen a kinesiologist, or I know one, or someone went to one. So it's become more, not common, but the word is not as unusual. So people are listening. So I've often said we've been on this escalator and it was going really slow, but it's really starting to zoom because it's becoming more acceptable. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And definitely being an author, you do get a different doors open to authors. So when you can say, I'm an author in your own right, as well as in compilation books. So I've been in 3 compilation books now. Stacey's will be my 4th. But I mean, it's a marvellous opportunity, and just being able to have a go at at the what do they call it? What are we going for? It's a big.
Oh yes, the Guinness.
The Guinness Book of Records. Sorry, yes. I couldn't think of the word for a moment. So just being able to say I'm involved in a Guinness Book of Records attempt is massive. It's an amazing achievement. And Stacey's doing such a beautiful thing with the ripples that she's trying to create in helping our youth. And I believe education is key. So if they are being empowered by stories and education, it's giving them some knowledge. Because how do you know that you're going to need that knowledge until you need it? So by being empowered by stories or being inspired by stories, which we've done all our lives. If you're a reader, you've always had your favourite book, or you go back to a book all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, stories are, well, they've always said that, haven't they, that they're the most powerful way of getting a
Yeah.
message across. Yeah.
And they build a picture in your mind. So someone reading a story or listening to a story hears the picture
Yes.
or sees the picture through words.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, I love books. I'm a real bookaholic.
Yeah.
So I've got books everywhere. So, and I'm old school. I love the physical book. I understand the beauty and the power of an ebook. And I've actually turned my solo book into an audio book as well, because that is another aspect for people that might have had dyslexia or learning difficulties. They can actually hear the information still by audio. So that's another powerful tool as well.
Definitely. So what's exciting about the future for you?
Oh, who knows? What's around the corner? I'm actually waiting to hand Oprah my solo book. So she was on my vision board. You asked before, do you have goals and dreams? For about the last 2008, so the last 7 years now, I've created a vision board. Now, a vision board is a pictorial blueprint or roadmap of where I'm wanting to go. And on that vision board from day one, I had Oprah's picture. Now, can't say that I ever really had any expectations of going to see Oprah, because I don't really travel very much and I haven't got a passport or anything like that. But about 3 years ago now, she came to Brisbane and she had her show at Boondall, which is like, 20 k's from where I live. So I had the opportunity to go and listen to Oprah and be in the audience. So it was absolutely amazing. I didn't get to meet her personally, but just the energy of being at that event was just huge. Now, she was on my vision board for 5 years. And I went I went with the book wrapped and signed and decorated and everything, and I've still got it in my cupboard because I didn't actually get through any security to give it to her. But one day I will.
Yeah.
So, who knows?
Oh,
so being on the Guinness Book of Records might be, enough to get us onto Oprah.
Exactly.
I'll add it to the dream.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Let's have a change in pace and do the speed round.
Okay.
What's your favourite book?
Oh, I love books in general. I haven't got one favourite. And different ages of my lives, I had different authors that I loved reading. So growing up, I loved Enid Blyton. As I got older, I loved Georgette Heyer. So there's a series of historical romances that I can read 10 times a year and still get enjoyment out of the repertoire that's in the books, even though I've read them dozens of times.
Yeah, I love that. If someone asked me, what's your favourite book? I said, it depends on the day.
Yeah, exactly. What do I need it for? I remember after studying, I really enjoyed reading a book again, instead of a technical book. And my daughter always buys me some sort of inspirational animal story in this day and age. So, yeah, no, I love all books.
Nice. Who's a mentor figure that's helped you the most?
Okay. I have many, and you have them for different reasons. All right. So people I aspire, and I really, I don't have a guru figure that I face, but Oprah would be someone that I think has had an amazing life and has amazing effect on people. Olivia Newton-John's another one. And then in my personal journey, there's a lady called Leanne Parman, which is the owner of a women's organisation that has been very helpful in my growth. And then just locally, a lady called Chris Knight and Leanne Barker are two women who are business owners, but I've had a lot to do with them. So they encourage me to just shine and be the best I can.
What daily ritual works best for you?
Daily ritual. Sleeping's lovely. I love my bed and I love sleeping. It depends on my day. So if I'm in clinic, I like to get ready for clinic and just get grounded and be ready for my clients. And at the end of the day, especially on a long clinic, I have a bubble bath. That's a ritual that I find just lets me get rid of some of the energy of the day and just relax. So a nice big bubble bath with candles and in the dark sort of thing.
Yeah, sounds beautiful.
So, and then the next best thing for me is just connection with family. I love family and I'll, do anything to be with family.
Do you have a favourite food?
Food. Yeah, basic food. Wholesome, old-fashioned Australian food is my favourite food. Steak, potatoes and nice veggies, well cooked.
Yum. Do you like the country or the city?
Probably the city.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the country, but I don't want to live there.
Yeah.
I live on acreage in North Brisbane, so that's semi-country. So that's as rural as I really want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a piece of advice that you could give to others to help them make change in their life?
The easiest advice is to identify why you're feeling like you're feeling first. Because if you can't identify how you're feeling or why you're feeling it, you can't do anything about it. So my first advice is to identify what one of your stresses are that's limiting what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because when you know about it, when you know about it, you can do something about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, so if you don't know, say, I don't know. If you, like with when I was releasing my book, I prevaricated. I had it written, 3/4 written, and it was just that last little bit that I hadn't done, and it took probably 2 years to get the last little bit done. So the bulk of my book I wrote in 12 weeks. The rest of it took forever. And it wasn't until I sat down one day and said, for God's sake, Marney, what is the problem? And, had a little conversation with myself. And I had this realization that if my book wasn't published, it wasn't a failure. So if I could put off publishing it, no one could say it hadn't worked.
Yeah.
Because if I published it and didn't sell any, well, then it was a failure. Okay, so you should have seen me the first day I sold a book. I was running around the house going, oh my God, I've sold a book, especially to a stranger.
Yes.
Someone had found it online and bought it online.
Yes.
I was so excited. I still get excited. I love signing books. I love being an author and signing, putting a little story. And it's really lovely that if you put a nice message in a book, the person who's receiving that book, they're uplifted as well. So I remember writing on one, you're an inspirational woman of influence, to a lady who I didn't really know, but just talking to her, she'd come through quite a lot in life and she was in a bit of a challenge. And she emailed me afterwards and she said, you have got no idea when I got home and read that message, what it did for my confidence to know that someone who didn't know me thought I was, especially an author, thought I was inspirational. So we don't always know the effect we have on someone else's life. So it's up to us to encourage and empower and enable other people all the time, because it doesn't cost you anything to give a compliment or to encourage someone to feel good about themselves.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. All right, last question. Here we go. If you had a time machine, what would you go back and do differently or tell your former self?
Yeah, you mentioned this one before. I'm a bit blunt sometimes, and I think, well, if you went back in time, you wouldn't know any better. So how would you do anything differently? One of the things I would love to change in my life was the fact we lost the amount of money we did with professional advice from someone else, and that took most of our savings and a lot of our security and general health and well-being. I would love to have spent that money instead of losing it the way we did. So, to be empowered, because you didn't know any different. So that'd be one of the biggest things I would change in life would be not to have lost that time, because we spent 8 years in court fighting it and things like that. So, that took a lot of energy and effort and took a big toll on the family. Yeah. So that's something I would like changed. How you would do that to change it if you didn't have hindsight. Yes. And I do a lot of intuitive work, and I'll say to my clients, your hindsight is the intuition you didn't listen to, but you needed to have it there in the first place. Yeah. Whereas we didn't know about it. So I'm not sure. Life's a journey, life's a challenge, and it's a gift. So each day is a present. So enjoy it, unwrap it, enjoy it, and have fun. Do the best you can. Oh, definitely. Beautiful. Thank you for that. Now, thank you so much for your valuable time today, Marney, and sharing your story. I really appreciate it. Acknowledge everything that you've told us. Would you like to give us the best place to contact you, and we'll end it there? Okay, so my email is probably the easiest. It's info@kinique.com. That's KINIQUE.com. And I look forward to the 1,000 or the 999 other authors that are joining Stacey in this beautiful challenge. So thanks, Leanne. It's lovely. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Igniters, Marney is the stress buster and took on the challenge of studying later in life. I love how she says that every day is a present, so unwrap each day as it comes. If you want to contact Marney, email her on info@kinique.com. That's KINIQUE. For a copy of my book Balance, Adventure School for Women, so you can go from wilting to blossoming, go to leanneblaney.com.